right, let's dive right into John Milton's definitive 17th century masterpiece, Paradise Lost. And today, we're doing a strict, full book-by-book summary to understand exactly how a completely blind poet managed to construct this timeless, sprawling saga entirely from his own mind. Here's our roadmap for the explainer. 1. The ultimate epic poem. 2. Books 1 through 3, Cosmic Realms. 3. Books 4 through 8, Warnings and Flashbacks. 4. Book 9, The Central Tragedy. And finally, 5. Books 10 through 12, Exile and Redemption. Section 1, The Ultimate Epic Poem, blending classics with theology. So Milton seamlessly fuses these massive Christian theological concepts with classical epic conventions. A great example is starting in medias res. Basically, that means starting right in the middle of the action. He completely skips the creation of the universe and just drops us directly into the burning lakes of hell right after the great war in heaven. We find Satan and his fallen angels lying there, completely stunned in the infernal depths. Boom! You are immediately hooked into the stakes of the conflict. And Book 1 really establishes Satan's defining trait, which is his absolute, unyielding, defiant pride. As he recovers on that burning lake, he absolutely refuses to even entertain the thought of repentance. Instead, he rallies his legions with a declaration that permanently defines his character. He says it is better to reign in hell than serve in heaven. Driven by this intense pride, his lieutenant Mammon proposes they actually build a grand, dark capital for themselves, which they dub Pandemonium. Moving to Section 2. Books 1 through 3, Cosmic Realms, Hell's Plot, and Heaven's Foreknowledge. Inside Pandemonium in Book 2, the fallen angels hold what is literally a political debate. It's fascinating. Moloch is all in for brute force war. Belial? He just wants to hide and do absolutely nothing. Mammon suggests they should just make the best of hell. But then Beelzebub steps up to propose corrupting the newly created earth. The twist here, though, is that he's actually just voicing Satan's prearranged plan. Satan brilliantly manipulates this entire council just so he can volunteer to journey alone, braving the allegorical figures of sin and death at the gates of hell. As we roll into Book 3, the scene shifts up to heaven, and it creates this incredibly striking contrast. God the Father foresees the fall of man, but he explicitly clarifies that humanity will sin through their own free will, not through any kind of divine compulsion. And while Satan is busy plotting his dark revenge, God the Son actually steps forward, offering himself as a future sacrifice to redeem mankind. Meanwhile, down below, Satan is actively traversing chaos, landing on the sun, deceiving the archangel Uriel, and finally setting his sights straight on Earth. Section 3, Books 4 through 8, Warnings and Flashbacks, the backstory of the cosmos. In Book 4, Satan finally infiltrates Eden, and observing Adam and Eve, he just feels this intense burning envy. He even bizarrely disguises himself as a toad in Book 5, just to whisper a troubling dream right into Eve's ear. Well, God responds by sending the archangel Raphael to give Adam a warning, which sparks this massive flashback sequence. Raphael explains how Satan's envy caused the initial rebellion. He details the epic, 3-day war in heaven in Book 6, ending with a sun driving the rebels into hell. Then, in Book 7, he outlines how God took 6 days to create the earth and humanity as a direct response to losing those rebel angels. Then Book 8 slows things down a bit to really establish the emotional stakes here. Adam recounts his own creation to Raphael, but he confesses an incredibly intense, almost overwhelming passion for Eve. Raphael immediately cautions him. He warns Adam not to let his emotional attachment override his higher reason. It's a remarkably relatable human dilemma, right? But as we're about to see, it is the exact psychological flaw that triggers the impending tragedy. Which brings us to Section 4, Book 9, The Central Tragedy, the climax of the epic. The fall of humanity unfolds with just mechanical precision here in Book 9. First, Eve suggests they separate to get their work done faster. This isolation gives Satan, who is now disguised as a serpent, the absolute perfect opening. He flatters Eve, he promises her divine knowledge, and she eats the fruit. But honestly, the most heartbreaking twist is Adam's reaction. See, he isn't deceived by the serpent at all. He knowingly eats the fruit, choosing to share her fate purely out of his intense, overwhelming attachment to her. It's exactly what Raphael warned him against. And almost immediately, their pure relationship completely degrades into shame, lust, and bitter mutual blame. Finally, Section 5, Books 10 through 12, Exile and Redemption, the Aftermath of the Fall. Book 10 deals with the immediate cosmic fallout. God sends the Son to pass judgment on humanity, while sin and death literally build a giant bridge from hell straight to earth. Satan proudly swaggers back into Pandemonium to boast about his grand success. But in a stroke of brilliant poetic justice, right in the middle of his boast, his punishment takes effect. He and his entire legion are humiliatingly transformed into hissing serpents. Meanwhile, back on Earth, Adam and Eve are facing absolute despair, the loss of their perfect home, and the terrifying new reality of mortality. Because Adam and Eve pray for forgiveness, God sends the archangel Michael. Now, Michael's job is to formally expel them, but also to provide them with some much-needed instruction. So in books 11 and 12, he shows Adam these sweeping, awe-inspiring visions of the turbulent human history to come. They witness the tragic story of Cain and Abel, the absolute devastation of the global flood, the rise of figures like Abraham and Moses, and crucially, the eventual coming of Christ to bring ultimate redemption. Hearing this promise of salvation, Adam is deeply comforted. And we are left with the lingering, incredibly powerful image from the close of Book 12, Adam and Eve being led out of paradise hand in hand. They're stepping into a harsh, entirely unknown world, looking back with sorrow, yet armed with a promise of ultimate redemption. It really leaves us to ponder, when you step back and look at the events of Paradise Lost, is the heavy burden of free will ultimately a tragedy of human sorrow, or is it a story of profound hope? It's certainly something to think about. Thanks for exploring the majesty of this book-by-book summary with me.